Welcome back to Transcriber from Reddit. Today's topic comes from the subreddit exLutheran, posted by user Grumpy Pigeon. As of recording, this was posted about 5 days ago. This is a text post that has the title, "How do they make assignments?" in parentheses, WELS. The main body of the text reads, "I guess I'm more curious on how they decide who gets a permanent call and why it's heavily the early childhood education people. Not sure if any of y'all have any insight." As of recording, this has 12 upvotes and 16 comments. User JJ Craker says, "Unfortunately, I've had lots of chances to observe the effects of the process, which is very insular in nature. Here is WELS' own description." Then it's the link for the WELS call process from the WELS.net website. JJ Craker continues, "In short, it's about who you know and making sure they know what you want. Otherwise, you are at the whims of chance, parentheses, or retribution, should you piss someone off, end parentheses. Of course, it's all framed as, quote, God's will, end quote, like those 12 people are magical receptacles of that will. Do I sound cynical? If so, that is correct." User Here for the Wine responds to JJ Craker saying, "Yes, it's total bullshit. They frame it as it's all from God, but it truly has to do with nepotism, who you know, and playing some BS game. Source, I still have called workers in my family, unfortunately." Me personally, I'm going to reference the last video I did on Adam Wakeman, where I mentioned that in a call process, they typically don't mention to the congregation who's looking to call an individual, they will not mention if the person is facing any sort of legal trouble, not if the person is facing any sort of accusations or if they're being charged with anything. They won't mention any of that information. So therefore, the congregation who is looking to call someone doesn't have all of the information they need in order to make an actually informed decision. User Lupita __ says, "It's all who you know. You get sent to BFE if you don't have the right last name. It's not, quote, God's will, end quote. It's a sham. Early childhood is big right now because the elementary schools are dying. They can get more people to come to their schools for 4K in the hopes they'll enroll K through 8 and it'll save their dying schools. Churches think a 4K is the answer. Newsflash, it's not. Your shitty doctrine is why your schools and churches are dying out." User nearby-cable-1461 says, "Insider on a throwaway account. Think of it like the NFL draft. The district presidents each have a list of the needs of the schools and churches in their district. They all get together with a list of candidates to be assigned, and they've each previously considered which candidate they would like to serve in which call area in their area. Then they take turns. One DP says, quote, I'd like Julie Luther as a third grade teacher in Cornhole, Nebraska, end quote. They all discuss and agree or disagree and propose she'd be better somewhere else, and they go around the room picking. Nowadays, when they're done, there are many vacancies still left, so they really have to prioritize who's getting a call filled and who isn't. They continue to say, why it's heavily early childhood. Churches have found that communities have more need for ECE than they do for an elementary school. Schools are closing and being replaced with ECEs in many cases. MLC students cannot be assigned to either one. They specifically enroll in ECE, elementary ed, secondary ed, or pre-seminary. Enrolling in secondary ed is no guarantee you will get a high school call. Those students are usually still assigned to a grade school, but will be more strongly considered for HS calls later on." Then, in response to user Forever Swinging's question, Interesting. Does early childhood seem to be stable enough to keep these positions and institutions alive? Does early childhood lead to stronger enrollment in elementary and high schools? User nearby-cable-1461 responded with, early childhood is thriving because it's something that people have to pay for one way or another. WELS schools were dying partly because people didn't see the value in paying tuition for schools that were falling behind the public schools technologically, athletically, and academically. But there's no free early childhood alternative. Now, LES enrollments are bouncing back strongly for a combination of reasons: voucher programs, an influx of students when public schools shut down for COVID, and to a lesser degree, feeder early childhood programs. Whether this will be a long-term increase will depend on how much WELS schools are able to capitalize on voucher programs. As an example, Minnesota Valley Lutheran High School in New Ulm has historically had maximum class sizes around 60. This year, there are 91 incoming freshmen, far and away a school record. One difference is that they are not all from lifelong WELS families. People in the Midwest are afraid of liberal policies in public schools and are now empowered to take their tuition dollars elsewhere. Side note, I find this interesting, but I don't know if all of the called workers will actually be placed, whether by people, whether it is an actual call from God, and the people, the 12 district presidents that are in charge. I don't know if that'll be enough to combat the vacancies. As user Just Another Jake Loser points out, this year there were around 240 vacancies and only 137 graduating students. And that's assuming, and reading that is assuming that all 137 graduating students will be able to be placed in those 240 vacancies. User Godfather of Green Bay says, it's horseshit, ... signed WELS principal. Side note, cannot agree more. When you have 12 humans pretending that they know the will of God, there's going to be a lot of mistakes that get made. And not any of the 12 will have any humility to admit when they made a mistake. User Don't Eat the Cookies Mom says, the call process is also how they move around pastors and teachers that have been known to have inappropriate relationships with minor children in WELS schools and churches. User Chuckles the Grumpy says, I don't have a ton of insight into the process. I just know that the district presidents and some synod higher-ups get together and decide. When I was a kid, I was really disappointed when I eventually understood that, quote, getting a call, end quote, wasn't God directly talking to you, but just some dudes making a decision together. And finally, user CatMom0812 says, I still find it interesting that this process, parentheses, nor the meager pay, end parentheses, was never discussed at MLC. I deferred a call to do something else for a while. Never was contacted by them again, ... Also odd since teachers are in short supply. If, while listening to this, you have any insights or you would like to weigh in, please visit this particular thread at the link provided in the description below. Just like with other things about the WELS, there's more light that needs to be shown on this process, and any advice or any stories you may have would be welcome to that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.